I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is the Roundtable. We are here tonight with Tom McAllister from New York City. We're talking about COVID-19 Central. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Van. Just to let you know, it looks like we kind of beat down COVID, knock on wood, but it looks like we're doing okay with it. Hopefully people, do this thing called wearing masks. They've been socially distant. And it looks like, the one thing about New Yorkers, we're pretty resilient.
True that.
That's the one thing we'll say. So far, it looks like things are getting better, and hopefully things get back to normal soon.
Yeah, actually, me here in Long Beach, I'm actually in the new hotspot central world. California took over, right?
I believe so. California, Florida, and Texas.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of going down, all right, we're now talking about Spinksy. He's here, our college football genius, so to speak. And Spinksy, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, guys. We actually, most of our country over here, we beat COVID a while back. So just so you know, even COVID didn't like it over here. It couldn't handle it. Look, I wish I was on the show for different reasons today, but obviously we're here to talk some college football soon, but we'll sort of get the show started and let me have my rant later.
Well, actually, that's a great segue, man. Why don't we jump right into that?
All right, well, look, I woke up this morning. I was rather upset. Looks like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have cancelled all fall sports. That's football, soccer, basketball, everything going forward. They've said it looks like they're going to try and have football in spring. If you ask me, that is the biggest joke I've ever heard. You can't just move a season from fall to spring and think that everything else will just fall into place. We're still waiting on word from the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. Looks like the SEC has said they're going to power through this and they're going to have games anyway. A few things come to mind when we talk about this. Obviously, this is going to affect the NFL draft in April. Guys who are not going to be able to have an extra season under their belt, guys in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 who can't have any more game on tape to impress NFL teams. How's that going to look for them? If some teams go ahead with a season, how does that look? Everything at the moment is so up in the air, and I think it needs to be. The biggest thing I found was there was no commissioner. There was no just one general power that looks after everything, that says yes or no. It is every conference for themselves, and every conference is trying to backstab everyone else, and they're not really looking after everyone around them. So
no matter what happens, Notre Dame is screwed, man, okay?
Look, so Tom, have you got thoughts on this, mate? Look, how do you feel about there being some games and some nights, some conferences in, some out? Is this just a pipe dream, or are we going to have games at all?
I think first off, I don't see any college football games occurring in the fall. I really think the reason why college football needs butts and seats. Okay, they do not make as much revenue TV-wise as the other professional sports do. They want butts and seats. If they want people in seats, they're going to have to wait for this COVID thing to clear up or a potential vaccine. So if you're one of these leagues, the Big Ten, Pac-12, you're like, know what? We need these people here. We need optimum efficiency. We need to wait for the spring. Personally, just imagine if you have college basketball, March Madness, and NCAA football going on at the same time. I think you also brought up a point. There's no leadership. Over the last 20 to 30 years, it's been very apparent that the Power 5 conferences do not need the NCAA. The NCAA needs the Power 5 conferences. That's pretty much it. And you kind of talk about the conferences, even though there's a lot of rivalries like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, and Auburn, you are business partners with those people. So, if you're an SEC team, like let's say a Mississippi State, even though you might not be great, the better Alabama and Auburn is, the better that is for you. So I really think these conferences, they have a long relationship. They can kind of maybe figure something out. I see in the bare minimum, college football, I think it makes a lot of sense to have conference-only football games. but they want to get people in those seats. Now, you mentioned Notre Dame before. I got to call out Lou Holtz. Okay. My last name is McAllister. I have cousins who graduated from the University of Notre Dame. Grandma said we were related. My grandmother used to watch Notre Dame football games when Lou Holtz was the head coach.
Right.
How could Lou Holtz compare college football to the Battle of Normandy, D-Day? How could you do that? So let's put it in perspective. All right, college football, it's a tough, brutal sport, but you're not fighting Nazi tyranny. No. Those people who got off the boats on Normandy on D-Day, they were fighting probably one of the most evil organizations in the history of humankind in the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler. Hitler needed to be defeated, okay? Or the world would be a totally different place. We kind of don't need, in history, you know what? I wouldn't mind watching a college football game in the fall, but I don't think it's a necessity for life. No, okay? I don't think people should go out and risk them. Don't Lou Holtz, know what? Someone should cut his mic. He was a great coach. Last time Notre Dame was really relevant, but you can't compare the sacrifice the troops made June 6, 1944 to college football players going out there. You shouldn't be able to sacrifice yourself. It's kind of like someone who's like going and pushing out, you need to go fight for our cause. You need to go fight for our cause. That's kind of it. They're doing it for entertainment.
Go west, young men, go west. Well, I stay back east with all the girls, right? Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of the way I feel. But Van, how do you feel about that?
Well, you guys make a lot of good points, and I totally agree with you 100% on the Lou Holtz thing. Those two subjects don't belong in the same freaking paragraph, let alone the same sentence. But Spinksy, what you were talking about with the draft, I understand that's one thing that The Rock is pushing the XFL for. He says he's going to specifically gear the XFL to give these guys a shot to get tape ready for the NFL. And he's going at that big. Hey, he's looking at some cheap labor, and he's going to use the Vince McMahon method to create games. What do you think, Tom?
I'll throw out this idea. All right, if you're The Rock, let's go out. Let's prove who has the best conference. Let's get an all SEC team. Let's get an all ACC team. We can throw in Notre Dame. Let's get an all Big Ten team. Let's get an all Pac-12 team, and then get all the rest of the independents. I would love to see The Rock go out there, and because this is the time too. If you're the XFL, this could be like, wait a minute.
I think they ought to do that and then just let them wrestle. Tag team it up, man. You guys have got enough guys out there, okay?
Yeah. So I think that would be a way. If the Rock does it, Dwayne Johnson. Just remember, me and Sports Talk Line. I don't need
nice shirt, by the way. Nice shirt.
I just need enough money where I don't need to work again, and I think The Rock can hit me up. All right.
So
I'm not greedy. Just like, hey, Rock. I smell what you're cooking.
Yeah. You're not asking for a speed dial relationship. You're just saying, hey, take care of me once. That's all.
Listen.
All right. Well,
I think
moving on along. I wanted to look at training camps, NFL training camps coming up, and I saw a really cool article on All Places Bleacher Report, but they had some neat way of looking at training camp coming up and some questions that need to be answered and or scenarios that are being sold to the fan base, et cetera. And are you a buy or a sell on this prospect? And the first one up is Saquon Barkley, New York Giants, Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator. With the talent they have right now, is this Barkley with the needle going up, or no, it's not going to work? We got to defer to Tom here, right?
I would say with this, when you look at Saquon Barkley's 2 years, both of the years he did not have an offensive line, none whatsoever. He was still a home run hitter in his rookie season. His second season, I believe he got injured and he was rushed back a little bit too quickly.
Yeah.
It's just with Saquon Barkley, as we mentioned before, he's a home run hitter where he'll have 80 yards and 60 of those yards will be on one play.
Yep.
But if this is a big if the offensive line improves, they spent 3 draft picks this season on new offensive linemen, 2 tackles and a center.
It's going to improve. Let's just settle that. It
I
already
hope so.
has improved.
We've been saying that for 5 years. We thought Eric Flowers
No, just you. Just you. I never said that.
We thought yeah, so this
but
is
no, Eric Flowers was able to play elsewhere. So, I mean, Eric Flowers is one of those it's a late bloomer. Yeah, and that's part of it. They had him in the wrong position. But I think you guys finally have, the offensive line coach. You went out and got, one of the better ones there. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a guy that as offensive coordinator, and he's already been given the green light to keep doing what he's been doing. And what he's been doing is running the football a lot.
Yes.
So
I think, though, too, it's like with Saquon Barkley, it's almost like you're getting – almost like with pitch counts in baseball, you got to worry about how many carries. And it's almost as the season progresses, if the Giants are contending for a playoff spot, then you keep on feeding him. But you also need to make sure he gets healthy. You can also use him in a passing game, because the one thing they don't have that true one dominant wide receiver, but I feel like there is some depth there. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton had a great rookie year.
Slay's the guy that I think can build on. I mean, if he's not dominant, I don't know who is. I mean, he was just he did nothing but make splash plays there towards the end. It was amazing how he really came together.
He did. You just got to wonder, will the league figure Slayton out before Slayton figures the league out?
Look, I just sat here and minded my own business this entire time. I just want to say, first of all, you mentioned Jason Garrett and talent in the same sentence. That's wrong. Saquon has the people in front of him to be a superstar, and the Giants have to run the football because your quarterback can't throw. Okay, so yes, I checked down to Saquon for 5 or 6 yards. I get that, understand that, but your quarterback can't throw. So let's just focus on the Giants being a very one horse team. That's what that's what they do. They give the ball.
It's better than no horses.
That's good. That's fine. If it works, it works.
I got to check you on that, Spinks. Jones can throw the football. His problem is he needs to leave the running to Saquon Barkley, because the moment that he tries to do anything and he's not throwing the football, if he's like scrambling or some crap like that, I'd say it's getting like better 50-50 shot. He's going to cough it up.
Yeah, I think Van made a point. One of Daniel Jones's biggest issues is he's turnover prone. Kind of like his replacement or the person he's replacing, Eli Manning. I'll tell you this, Eli in his prime was great in the 2-minute drill, but boy, he was turnover prone. The one advantage is Daniel Jones is mobile. So you got to wonder if they get a running game going. It's going to be interesting to see the evolution.
Would you want Daniel Jones to run the football? I'd say no. Hand off, man. Hand off. You do not want him running the football. Bad things happen when he runs the football. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen when your QB runs the football, and only like one of them is good.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think Hugh Rockney said the same thing about passing the ball.
Yeah, and he's right too. Yeah. Just ask Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. All right. Look. Let's move on to the next question here. All right, and that's Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. All right. So with Saquon Barkley, real quick, we both bought into that, right? We all three bought in that he's going to have a good year. Okay. Mm-hmm. But now, what about the relationship with the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, and the offensive game? I mean, all of their offensive coordinators are gone. Well, except Moore. Moore was the coordinator last year. But now they got McCarthy as the head coach, and he's got the history and everything with Aaron Rodgers. He even got to coach Brett Favre for, a little while. Do you guys believe that this is going to work with all that talent at wide receiver and at running back around him? Or do you believe that, this just isn't there?
Look, I think the fact that they kept Kellen Moore as the OC really helps Dak this year. I think he's got I think Kellen Moore was one of those guys who's got everything up here but couldn't actually do it himself on the field. So I think having him there is only going to make the Cowboys stronger. I think the insight from McCarthy this year is going to be great. Yes.
Didn't she just describe Jason Garrett? I'm just asking, man.
And also having a new wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb too is just fantastic. I think the Cowboys are going to have one of the strongest offenses in the NFL this year, and I think we're going to destroy a lot of teams. So 16-0. Here we go.
So you're buying in on that. What about you, Tom?
I'm all in.
I see a smile. I see a smile over there, Tom.
16-0. Didn't a team do 16-0, and what happened? How did that?
Didn't end well.
How did that? But anyway, I look at this. You know what? You know my allegiance are. I'm rocking the interlocking NY. When I think of when I think of Coach McCarthy and Dak Prescott, I think of two words: power struggle. Here you have your franchise quarterback who didn't get re-upped, who has a new coaching scheme coming in. You know, for all you know, you can be Mike McCarthy and be like, you know what? I can find a better guy than this. I can, you know what? I can let him walk. I can maybe snatch someone else in the NFL draft. You know, I don't need this Dak guy. You know, I want Daniel Jones. No. So that I really think, though, this contract extension where the Cowboys totally muffed the punt, where basically they need to give Dak Prescott part ownership in the Cowboys. You know, so that's kind of some things to look at going forward, where it's like, you know what? It's going to be interesting. It'll just be a darn shame if the Cowboys are taken down by internal strife during the 2020. It would be a crime.
You're full of it. You're full of it.
I know your therapist bill will probably go up, Tom. You know, but actually, Tom, using your logic, I mean, the Cowboys are less likely to go after a QB like in the draft because they can just look around and go like, crap, if we got to spend a sixth to get, you know, Daniel Jones, crap, we can't afford to go better than that. You know, so, you know, it gets too expensive to go up any higher. They would have to go for like number one. But I mean, actually, if I think that that Jones could be convinced to go after a certain Clemson QB.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Which I see, you know, Trevor Lawrence is making the call to, you know, play. Honestly, if I'm one of Trevor Lawrence's advisors, I'll be like, you're sitting out. You know what? You're the number one pick. You have absolutely nothing to prove.
But he wants to do it, man. He wants to go. He wants to go.
Yeah.
You know, you can respect that. But if I'm his advisor, I just think of, you know, Jalen Smith, who started the trend of all these guys who are like, you know what, I'm not playing for a national title. I'm going to sit out because Trevor Lawrence has nothing to prove.
Yeah, and I would respect him more for sitting out than for half-assing it, okay?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm not going to get hurt, throw it away quick, all this shit. Like, fuck
like
that.
Clowney.
All right. Yeah, specifically like that, yeah. I mean, at that point, okay, you're not playing at 100%. You should sit out, man.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, with the Cowboys and stuff, all right, you're not buying on the McCarthy Dak Prescott relationship.
I see.
He is.
You know what? Unless the Dak Prescott contract situation needs to be settled, and until that's settled, I think the Cowboys, you know, they're probably like, you know what? We just spent a third, fourth round pick on Dak. He had so much talent. Right. I've never seen a rookie quarterback with so much talent around him be like.
Well, he walked into a great situation.
He did.
But I think for that reason, it's going to work because there's just too much talent. And Prescott's game, he shows that he can be a game manager. He can do that. And there is so much talent that the Cowboys have on their offense right now. I don't see how Dak can't, and he wants to get a good contract with somebody. So he's going to play well. He's going to play well. But is it going to be with the Cowboys? That's another question. Mm-hmm. So we got 2-4-1 against. All right, next subject, and I think this is a great one, just throwing it right out there because I think it's a valid question. And Spinksy, let's start with you again. The Colts, are they a Super Bowl contender this season, if there is a season, of course?
It's difficult with the Colts, mate. I think they've got average talent sort of all across the park. There's no real standouts like they've sort of once had. I'm a big fan of their cornerback, Rocky Sin. I was very high on him coming out of the draft a couple of years back. They've got talent there, but there's no like huge offensive talent like the Cowboys have or the Chiefs have or the Packers have to a certain extent. I don't think the Colts have got enough talent everywhere. But having said that, I think last year and the year before, they lost a lot of talent and still a long way. So I think they can sort of still win games, but without having massive talent there on the field. I think the old additive is a champion team will always beat a team of champions. So maybe the Colts are just that team. They just average over the park, but they all work well together. I can't see them making the playoffs, no.
Oh, wow. That's pretty wild. Tom, I mean, do you agree? They've got tremendous talent at linebacker. They've got tremendous talent on defense all around. They got solid talent at wide receiver, but he has problems staying on the field. But when he is on the field, he's very, very difficult to cover. But they're a team that's in search of a QB. And, is Rivers that guy after, him and Winston going back and forth for the lead and interceptions last season?
I think Philip Rivers is just a placeholder. I think the Colts could be decent. I think when you look at their division, the Houston Texans pop up. They have a lot of talent. Also, in the AFC, it's the Kansas City Chiefs and everyone else. You got to wonder. All right, Belichick is without his QB. So as long as Belichick is in New England, you can always give the Patriots, a puncher's chance. So I'd probably go with Kansas City 1, New England Patriots because they still have Bill Belichick in the AFC, and then it's a crapshoot. You can probably throw in the Baltimore Ravens. They're a team that could also compete in the AFC. But I really a lot would have to go right for the Colts.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think I can see this more like 2 years ago. And that was their first year really going, but their QB play was much better, et cetera. Can Philip Rivers lift them up and drive the train? Man, I just don't know. I'm not going to count Philip Rivers out, but I'm certainly not going to bet my money on it either. So, all right, the next one is an NFC East question, so we're all over this one, okay, guys? All right, so first guy with their hand up, all right, Dwayne Haskins. Is he going to see a leap? Is he going to make the shift? Is he going to become an NFC East starting quarterback that you look at and go, you know what? This kid can play. This kid can play. Or what? Spinks, your hand went up first.
Yes, Dwayne Haskins is a talent. It is going to be Dak Prescott, Dwayne Haskins, and then the other two idiots. I'm not even sure who they are, but those other two idiots definitely fifth and sixth, okay? It's going to be the Cowboys and the Redskins. I don't care about the other two teams. It does not matter at all. The Eagles chose the wrong quarterback, and the Giants definitely chose the wrong dude. So I can't. Haskins has the talent, has the future. You've seen what the new coaching setup has done the last couple of weeks with the name change and all this, and trying to change the culture there. And what they did with I can't think of his name during the week. He got done for domestic assault. Geist has been sacked. Yeah, and stuff like that. Taking it on the forward foot and making things happen. Haskins is the future there. I guarantee it. Yes.
I think with the Washington football franchise, formerly known as the Redskins, they have been one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the last 20 years. I look at it as
that's an actual fact. That's not.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
They are competing with the New York Knicks and James Dolan for inefficiency in decades. But there were certain elements that were disgusting that came forward, and with their culture. Yeah. With you had Coach Gruden, who was messing around with someone who worked in the office. He found out a player was messing around in the office with him. And then that player gets benched. That substitute player misses a block, and Alex Smith's career is pretty much over. So there are a lot of issues. So honestly, I cannot see a Washington quarterback being successful unless the culture does change. And I'm not buying in just yet on Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, I agree with Spinks that the talent is there, that Haskins does have talent. But in order to make a successful transition from college to become an NFL QB, you need to be in a good system, a stable system with some good coaching. And I think Tom's spot on in that regard. So I got to agree with you, Tom. That's just not happening. All right. Now, the last question is one I came up with myself. And again, we're sticking with the NFC East. Maybe we'll make this our NFC East podcast. Who's going to be in the NFC East longer, Dak Prescott or Wentz? See, it's a question, isn't it? Yeah, Tom, what do you think, man?
I'll go with Carson Wentz because he actually signed.
Of course you will. Why would you not?
No. Let me. I have a logic though. I'm using this thing called logic. A lot of people. The reason why is because Carson Wentz has signed the long-term deal, right. And as long as the Eagles still have that same general manager. So if you're a quarterback and the same GM who picked you,
you're tied. Yeah.
It's like, know what? You're tied together. I mean, the Wentz. I've never seen a quarterback who helped his team, even though he never played in the Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. I think the Eagles winning the Super Bowl was the worst thing that could have happened to Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Because they won when he was hurt. If he won when he was healthy, he'd definitely be there. They'll be putting a statue of Carson Wentz next to Rocky.
Yeah, and you know what they call grandma? She has the circular things between her legs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of something to look at going forward. Where I think Wentz, because Dak Prescott, who knows with Jerry Jones? So that's the reason why.
Yeah,
I've said this since 2016 or 2017. The Eagles kept the wrong quarterback. They should have kept Foles. They should have let Wentz go. I've said that since day one. If anyone's listened to anything I've ever said, that's my number one thing. So Dak will be in the NFC East longer than Carson Wentz for sure. Even if he's not with the Cowboys, Garrett will take him to the Giants and he'll be with the Giants next year. That'll happen. There you go.
The circle is complete. Oh, man, too funny. All right, well, look, since this is officially the NFC East Hour, I think it's time to transition to your favorite subject of the week, and we call it the DeAndre Baker Police Blotter Update. So, is there anything new?
Well,
speaking of dysfunctional.
Yeah. So basically, Quentin Dunbar, the Seattle Seahawks cornerback, he was cleared of all charges. DeAndre Baker, on the other hand, was charged on 4 counts of armed robbery and is, I think, facing a minimum of 10 years in prison and could potentially get life. So he might not be playing this season for the New York Giants. He might be playing with Rick Wild Thing Vaughn in the California Penal League.
Is he getting some advice from Ray Caruth or something like that?
Well, at least he didn't take advice from Ray Caruth. All right, let's be totally different trial. But still, it's one of the things too where this is an example of like how stupid are you? Just the whole saga.
Where is your head, man?
Yeah, just like ugh.
Actually, I would like to be in the brain conversation at that point. That would make like a great movie. If you could get inside the head where he gets to answer these questions and you get to hear the answers when he decides that it was a good idea. I want to know what the heck he was thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's like those things you see on YouTube where you're going like, those people, what are they thinking, man? And it's the same thing here. Somehow he was convinced this was a good idea.
Yeah. Or maybe his reaction. I think that.
Oh, yeah. We're not going to get the whole story because everybody's lying their ass off.
Yeah.
It's all scripted at this point, and it looks like the prosecution has got everybody on the same page. The other guy's walking. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's walking all right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But somebody's going to get left holding. When the music stops and there's a chair short.
Yeah. It looks like his. I think I said this before, but I think if luckily Dave Gettleman had multiple draft picks last year, or this would be a huge uproar.
Well, I'm saying for Cowboys, Redskins, and Eagles fans, they got to feel good as long as Gettleman's there, because he's not been efficient. I mean, he's done well in some parts, but I think he had the currency to really blow up the Giants' talent roster, and it didn't come through.
Well, I think with him, this is the first time you actually saw, with his draft, you saw a strategy where he wants to build up the offensive line and he wants to build up the secondary.
It's a good strategy.
It is, because usually to get to the next level, you need an elite unit.
It's like the Christians versus the Lions back in the old Coliseum. See, the Christians, they had a hell of a coach, but the team was really weak. So
it's going to be, Gettleman is probably – it's going to be an interesting year for him. The Giants need to succeed for him to stay. But I do see the strategy. And if you see progress, if you see player development, which is something, you really kind of haven't seen, that will be huge too.
I liked his picks that have hit and stuff like that. I like them. I like the Daniel Jones pick. I mean, I don't think he wanted to spend a 6 on it. It would have been a little bit later. But, hey, there was other teams looking at Daniel Jones. He had to take him right there. I mean, look at Eagles fans. Are they happy what they had to spend to get wins? Look at LA Rams fans. Are they happy now with what they spent to get Goff? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm sure there's some fans that are not. So you got to spend what you got to spend to get a QB. It really doesn't matter if you spent unless you just spent like a 4th rounder, then I guess you're off pretty good. But
as much as I hate everything to do with the New York Football Giants.
You can't even say it. That's how much it drives.
I can't even say it. I can't even get it out there. I hate it.
You can't even say it.
I think maybe this season there needs to be some kind of alleviation on all teams. There's going to be that many guys opting out and that much else going on that maybe this is not a year for coaches to get sacked.
Yeah.
GMs to leave for stuff like that. Maybe this is just one of those years where you just need to suck it up and deal with it. You might go, you might go 3-13 or whatever, but that just could be because you've got a few guys that are out, a few injuries, a few with the virus, and maybe it's one of those years where coaches don't get sacked. And I know that's hard for teams who are obviously coming into having a few terrible seasons as it is, but maybe the Giants just need to sort of ease up on their coach because he's really good for the NFC East.
Yeah, you want him to stay is what you're saying. Okay. But no, I think he's onto something, but, tongue in cheek set aside. I mean, you got to give this guy a chance to figure it out. They gave him a lot of good tools. They got Garrett in behind him. So they're going to raise the level of what they're doing. But I want to throw something out there because of the guys that are going to be opting out, the shorter amount of preparation time, the no preseason, okay, it's going to be a different product on the field. So with that in mind, I think a player like Saquon Barkley, who, as we talked before, he's very Barry Sanders-esque, and that he's not so good perhaps at, around the goal line, or maybe he could be if they ever gave him a chance. But the guy can take nothing and turn it into 60 yards. Unbelievable. So when you have that and your offensive line, you guys are still going to have a good offensive line, it looks like. I think that gives you a huge advantage where he can get into the secondary and just make some players that shouldn't really be there look foolish.
Yes, I think if Saquon Barkley consistently gets to the second level, the Giants would totally take that.
Oh, it's over.
And you got to wonder, though, too, if when you look at the construction of the Giants' defense, they got to run the Bill Parcells offense where you hold the ball, your offense is on the field more than their offense because, their defense, they really don't have that dominant pass rusher. I mean, not unless something comes out of nowhere.
Well, you guys got to keep your best one. Golden, right?
Marcus Golden did sign his tenure. I'm interested to see the development of Dexter Lawrence. You also got the person they got from the Jets, defensive tackle. I forget his.
I want as many people out there listening to start and make Free Gregory a hashtag that works. The NFL commissioner needs to get off this crap. They've literally legalized marijuana for players to smoke right now. They just have to pay a fine and keep playing. And they have this guy out indefinite suspension for smoking marijuana. Get a freaking life, dude. Be consistent. You're saying that his deal doesn't come under the new CBA because he was grandfathered in. Him specifically. What do you got against this guy? He's a good kid. He's a good citizen. He doesn't do crappy stuff in public, et cetera, XYZ, or in private. He seems to be a guy that's really working on something. He just likes his marijuana, and that is freaking all right. Free Gregory. Hashtag Free Gregory. That's my rant. All right.
Beautiful.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm glad I got that out. All right. And with that out, has anybody else got a rant to close the show?
No, look, I've just one thing I wanted to say is for 5 months we've sat here with this virus going on, and college football had the opportunity to do some good things, and I've sat here on this show and my own show and every other show and saying, if you are sick, stay home. If you have to go out, wear a goddamn mask. It's not that hard, man. And now we're having no football. There'll be no college football because idiots didn't want to stay home and wear a goddamn mask. It's not hard, right? That's all you had to do. And now look at us sitting here talking about there's no football. That means I'm gonna have to go do things with the missus on the weekends. No one wants that. I want to watch football. You guys are killing me.
Get ready for those pumpkin patches. Those pumpkin patches are going to be packed.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
I would say with my rant, we are seeing the difference between good leadership and bad leadership, and also starting a season and continuing the season. The NBA and NHL, their players union, their management got together. They're like, know what? We're pretty close to finishing a season. And you know what? They were able to continue the season. The NBA has not had a positive test in a few weeks. Everyone's pretty much behaving. They're giving everyone a model, at least professional sports, of how to do things. While Major League Baseball, they have ups and downs. We're waiting to see which team gets infected by COVID next. And, college football is not happening. The NFL is having these reservations. So I think we are seeing the difference between continuing a season and starting a season in COVID, and good leadership and bad leadership.
Well said. Well said. All right, to everyone out there, please don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscription down below, then that little notify bell. We appreciate it. You are the ones that make the difference. And as we head around the room, please follow everyone here on Twitter. Spinksy is at SpinksyCFB. Tom is at defends_com. You'll find me at Stephen Vanover. And until next time, listen like you play it with intensity. Bye all.